Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they had to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms.
Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio, and I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. I'm really glad that you could join me today. And of course, you'll see this show on Podomatic. You can also find it on iTunes, and there's also some other podcast directories, and it's also available on Blog Talk Radio. It's blogtalkradio.com/Coach Deb. And that is the archive of shows going back for about 7 years. So you can stop by there and also listen to some of the previous shows. So please make sure that you do that as well. And also the blog, womenentrepreneursecrets.com. So I hope you stop by there too. So we're going to welcome my guest today. Founder Kate Dobie was born and raised in a small southern Minnesota town where her dad was a local postmaster. She spent many hours after school and on Saturday mornings shuffling around his mailroom. This foreshadowing aside, Kate has had diverse and dynamic professional experience, which took her from that hometown of 500 people to traversing the largest cities and interacting with the biggest brands on the planet, including 2.5 years studying Mandarin in mainland China and 5 years working for Major League Baseball in Australia. As the first female general manager of an Australian baseball franchise in national history, Kate has an immense passion for seeing women succeed in business and hopes to serve the Pen Plus Pals community with the same enthusiasm and dedication she brought to the international sports industry. So welcome, Kate. Really glad to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me, Deb. I'm really excited.
So that really sounds like a very interesting bio. We're going to go a little bit more into that. But if you could just share it first for the listeners, how did you get started with this particular business that you're doing right now?
Absolutely. Well, first, again, thank you so much for having me. It's great what you do for the community. I mean, it's very humbling to hear 7 years of archives, and we, as in, as female business leaders, we're very fortunate to have this platform to share our experiences. So thanks for having me. I think the best careers are the most meandering, and I think that that intro and that bio gives a bit of a sense for the way that my career has arced and taken me to a variety of interesting places and interesting opportunities. So this new venture, Pen Plus Pals, is really, I think, a culmination of me preparing to be able to launch a business. I'm really excited to now be at this stage, and very, very happy, that everything has, brought me to this point.
Mhm. Wow. Well, that sounds great, and it's very interesting. And I want to, thank you for what you said about this show, because when I started out, I just figured I would be on for maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of months. So, it's interesting, as you said, about meandering. It's like you don't know what's ahead. A lot of times you're just doing something and you say, well, I'm going to give this a try, or I think this is what I want to do right now, but you just never know. Sometimes.
Oh, my God, you nailed it, yes.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think a lot of entrepreneurs will say that. It's not like it was a direct plan, but this is something that they went through a lot of different twists and turns, and here they are. It's like, they may never realize that when they started out. So when you were in your small town, what really led you to say, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do these different things. I'm just going to step out from where I am right now because I have this desire to go experience other things. What really led you to make those?
Yeah, I think that's, the point you raise is so spot on and so interesting. I think that we're really good at looking back and rationalizing at all of these, slings and arrows of of our fortune and all of these career pivots. But when I look back, and I'd say my background has, been quite dynamic, but it's really been predicated on this inclination to just say yes. So I grew up in a really small town, had a lot of passions, was really involved, and I just said yes to so many activities. And I think that was a great way for me to stay busy, but also to eliminate directions that I didn't want to take. Maybe throw more attention and energy into the things that struck a chord. So I went to university and, used that same yes philosophy to take on Chinese, which was probably the most different approach that I could have taken to that tertiary learning curriculum. But yeah, from there, after graduation, I spent 2.5 years in China, and that coincided with Major League Baseball opening up their flagship office in Beijing. So to your point, I could have never crystal balled these things. If I ever get the opportunity to do a commencement address at that high school, and that's a total bucket list thing of mine, I would love that. But I would give a really healthy warning to those students to not spend too much effort on mapping out that hypothetical career and try to have all the answers, because I sure did not. And I'm not too far removed from those years as a very restless small town teen, but I've, now in my early 30s, learned some very significant lessons, and I think the most important of which is just, I'm appropriating that Richard Branson quote, I've had more fun in life by saying yes. So you just need to be ready to seize those opportunities. You never know where they're going to take you. 7 years later into a podcast, you never know where they're going to take you.
That's true. It's true. It wasn't my idea that, I'll still be here. So it's very interesting. You really don't know. It's hard to predict where things are going to twist and turn. So, I think sometimes people try to hold on and try to be in control, and then they are afraid often to make those leaps because they are just trying to hold on with both hands and not really, as you said, say yes and step out into these different opportunities.
Absolutely.
That stops a lot of people. So, tell us more about Pens Plus Pals. Yeah,
I'm really excited to offer what I think is quite a distinct community and format for communicating in this modern era, which is so dominated by digital social platforms. So Pens Plus Pals is a modern matching service for pen pals. We're talking snail mail. And using modern technology, the parts we need, we're going to reverse engineer to match pen pals across generations, across geographies, and really celebrate and advocate for this one-to-one tactile communication, focusing on community and authenticity and legacy, because I do think there's something about that authenticity and the legacy of a letter that makes it so drastically different in terms of the experience and in terms of the connection. This isn't, I'm certainly not trying to take on the juggernauts that are Snapchat and Facebook, and there's a new one every day, and obviously they will be there. I just don't think those things should be at the expense of or in replacement of what's been a really vital and now a very undervalued form of communication. So that's what we're challenging with Pens Plus Pals.
And that's a really interesting, as far as social media, because recently I was doing some social media 101 workshops at a local library, and there's different people involved, and some people have been on social media, some have not, and basically, in some cases they're trying to figure out, okay, what's the big deal about this or that, or why should I care about this or that, and I'm saying it's really just all communication. It's still just people talking to people or communicating or connecting, like what you're doing.
Absolutely.
It's just the technology may be different, but the basics are still there. So I really thought it was pretty exciting. With your concept, because it's just, in a way, it's so different. When I send a card to a friend, they're like almost shocked because it's written.
And those are the moments. I had a friend send me a card this week as well, and I do a lot of this in my spare time. And the thrill and the way that it impacts and punctuates my day, I can tell you it's very different than receiving one of 100 emails that I get. So, yeah, I think the form is very important. And it's very different. It makes you think differently. It makes you behave differently when you can't rely on the backspace button, or when you're able to actually put that phone on airplane mode for 10 minutes. And, many, many studies out there show that this is actually a very healthy, cathartic, exercise for people. But I think more than anything, you do not compose an email. But you do, you compose when you force yourself to really sit down and think reflectively and thoughtfully about what you're trying to say to this one person. It just happens to be disruptive in this current marketplace, but it's not, because we're using the oldest tools, some of the oldest communication methods on the planet. We just see a real gap, and we want to offer this to like-minded people and, build a mechanism and build a community where they can, involve their friends and really evolve it as we go.
Well, that's so interesting that we're going back to our writing is writing notes for pen pals or things like that, or it's disruptive. Isn't that kind of funny? People
it's a mad world we're living in. It is. And that's the thing. I think it's created, quite an ecosystem here where we have some kids, and I say kids because I don't feel like I really relate to, the millennial group or even the younger generations who have literally never grown up without screens in their faces. There are people like myself who might be feeling a bit disenchanted by all of it, needing a social media holiday. I can't tell you how many friends of mine have just said, I'm over it. I'm being bombarded. I hate, waking up to 100 notifications and already feeling like I'm behind. And then maybe people like my parents, my grandparents, who feel like they were not, like, when you had that session in the library, maybe addressing people who felt like they were left behind by all of it, never quite latched on. We don't want this digital dominated era to create marginalized groups. Like, we should all still have, a community that we can elect into where it's a level playing field and everyone's kind of coming at it with the same intent, a very authentic intent.
Right. That's a good point, actually. What I thought was interesting, last time I did a class for Instagram, some people are like, oh, I know this woman, and she keeps, posting all these pictures about her grandkids, and she's got, 101 hashtags, and they couldn't really get, what was the point of that? Like, who was supposed to get, what were we supposed to get out of seeing all her grandkids' pictures and hashtags and whatnot? And the thing was, it was hard for me to explain. I was like, What you're supposed to get
Right?
out of it.
It's mass posts to anonymous, bodies or parties.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I do think it gives you that hit of recognition. Feeling like you're a part of the broader conversation, but does it really feed you in a way that I think this one-to-one tactile, feeling it in your hands, pen on paper, I do think that both can still serve a purpose in our lives and both can maintain space in this world.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree.
No hashtags. It's not going to trend. So no hashtags, no.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I've looked at blog posts and people go, oh, put all these hashtags, blah blah blah, and then someone else goes, well, I only put like 3 because you shouldn't put more. Everyone has their own rule, and then people think that there's a standard, or people think that there are rules, or people think I should do this. But the thing is, right now, it's kind of like the Wild West. You can do anything. You could say anything. You can say this is the rule, and tomorrow that's the rule. No, next week this is the rule. It's not right. At least at this point, there's no real standard. I think for what you should do or what you'd better do, or this is the best practice. I don't even think that there's time for that in terms of social media right now.
No.
I think
I'm stressed just hearing it, honestly. It's just it's the giving yourself the freedom to release yourself from these, arbitrary algorithms and Big Brother and I mean, you own these letters. These are yours. These aren't ours. These are something that you hold on to, again, going back to legacy, and I think it's important that not the whole of your being exists on the cloud. This could mean something, and it could be more intimate than those mass posts that you alluded to.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, because I worked in IT for a long time, and I was in computers, and just kind of exposed to all the technology and things as it has developed and really quickly, actually. So I can appreciate that, but then at the same time, there's the, as you said, it's the tactile things, the touching, it's communicating, it's the relating, that on a personal level sometimes really gets lost because we start to get so excited about, well, my picture looks a certain way, and I have to get the photographer, and I got to get the right camera, or I have to get the right lighting, and I have to create an image. And a lot of times people are so worried about creating an image that isn't really their life anyway.
Yeah, it begs the question, who are you doing this for? Is this is this truly for yourself and your own intrinsic value, or your creative outlet, your voice, or is it something different? So we're excited to assemble that community of people who still want to honor making these connections, and then get a bunch of cool stuff along the way too. It's more than just the matches, and I'm excited to be able to encourage this the creative juices by sending along a really great set of perks like stationery and gifts and apparel and things that might also encourage certain segments that might not initially just be attracted to the idea of writing letters, but once they see that it really is a community building sort of effort, and they get they get some swag and can feel good about identifying with the brand, which needs to really speak to being contemporary and engaging, and so we still need to play in that scene as well.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, still need to be relevant, but but make sure that we're staying very true to the the mission and the ethos.
Mhm. Well, I think particularly as a writer, I love the whole idea of stationery and notebooks and things like that. It just excite me. Even though
we're gonna have themed ones. We're gonna have themed ones every quarter. So yeah, as a member, you get to nominate what theme you'd like to see, and then we'll pick them. And so it's like you can collect them all or use them to write to all your new friends. But yeah, that's just kind of one. Again, you need to be engaging. You need to make sure that the community is able to stay connected and feel like they're having a real say, that they have ownership over what this is. So it's just one of the ways that we're making sure that, they have a very heavy hand in crafting this as we go.
Wow. Yeah, because I think that's terrific, and just, as you said, receiving things and just the feeling of just putting pen to paper, I think it's just a different way of communicating. And I love to pick out cards with certain pictures, and there's something about it. This to me is really exciting, and I really like to if I pick a card for someone, I want to pick something that I think kind of matches who they are. So there's a lot that goes on in that process.
It's so deliberate. Yeah. And, I have a hunch that we're not the minority, so we're not the only ones, but, stay tuned. Yeah.
I'm sure we're not, because I think it's more of a human thing. People want to touch and feel, and they want to communicate. That's all a part of being human, so
absolutely.
That's not going to go away. It may just come in different forms, but I don't think you can really remove yourself from the basic human contact. I think that's really at the heart of everything.
Agreed.
So that's the thing that we really can't lose, because that's really what we really need to have. So let's take a quick break, and we will be right back in just a few seconds.
Hi, this is Deborah. Not only am I host of Women Entrepreneurs Radio, but I'm also a writer and coach. I've learned that making professional changes calls for a change in mindset, and that's not always easy to do. In my book, Think Like an Entrepreneur, Transforming Your Career and Taking Charge of Your Life, you'll learn the 5 steps to thinking like an entrepreneur so that you can move from idea to action. You'll also get information on how to manage fear of failure and how to banish self-doubt. And you'll receive lots of motivation to pick you up and point you in the right direction when you're facing the emotional and mental challenges that come with making life changes. In fact, one reviewer said, the book gave me ideas to match with my own feelings. This book is clear, straightforward. All tips are really good and easy to apply. I couldn't agree more. So get your copy today of Think Like an Entrepreneur, Transforming Your Career and Taking Charge of Your Life. It's available in print, ebook, and audiobook on Amazon.com.
Hi, everyone. We're back with Kate Dobie of Pens Plus Pals, and we're talking about a lot of good stuff and communicating and writing and all this kind of thing that, as an author I'm really excited about. And, I know that a lot of people feel really touched by it, and just to kind of, I guess the whole process of just kind of reaching out to someone else and sharing your thoughts and feelings, because it is important and it's something that I know touches other people. Because I know when I do it in terms of my writing or do it in terms of sending cards or letters, people will tell me that this makes a difference to them as opposed to another email that sometimes they just try to avoid. So, it's I guess they say everything old is new again. It's something that isn't going away, and I really thought this was just a fantastic idea, when I connected with Kate. So, ultimately, what do you hope to achieve with this business? What are you hoping to get out of this?
Wow. So what does the future hold? Yes. Again, kind of going back to what we were saying, I think you cannot steer a parked car. You know, I've heard that phrase before. So I want to just start the car and then we'll be able to steer it, you know. And the beauty, I thought, in the you know, the business model of Pens Plus Pals is that for me as an emerging entrepreneur, it's a really kind of playful model. It's low overhead. It's very niche. So the sky is the limit in terms of allowing me to cut my teeth in this world of you know, entrepreneurial endeavors from here. And it's just right now my sole focus is growing that volume of writers, of users. Because it will be more fun. It is this connection economy, right? So the more people we have using it, the more enriched the exchange is going to be, and you know, similar to email or Facebook or any you know, entity that relies on multiple people using it at once. From there, we've got a lot of, you know, exciting ideas and plans. I'd love to take these, you know, paper-based relationships and be able to, if we've got enough, you know, condensed users in one area, we could have community events where people are writing together in sort of like live mingling sessions. I'd love to have a CSR component that we could roll out where, you know, you effectively sponsor someone, pen it forward, if you will, to make sure that that the connections can reach, you know, marginalized populations, maybe people in rural inaccessible areas or nursing homes or homeless shelters, and you know, populations that largely have been overlooked by a lot of the online platforms. Let's get them engaged and involved and see you know, what kind of relationships and insights can be gained from that. So, you know, a lot of angles that we can go, and just continuing to then reward the people that have been foundational to getting us off the ground. But you know, the future is now, and just making sure that that we can first have the people and then expand the products.
Mm-hmm. And that's a very interesting point, as far as people who may not have access, because I know that a lot of rural areas don't have the broadband coverage, and they may not even be as rural as people think. You know, they may be thinking, you know, I have one house out in the middle of nowhere, but it could be somewhere that may look suburban to you, but it's where it is in the country where the broadband, you know, companies are like, well, we don't want to be bothered, pretty much. And now, without that access, a lot of times you're not downloading these things on, you know, online and having all the full access that we, you know, up here in New Jersey, just kind of take for granted, because they, you know, for whatever reason, the companies are not really spreading these services out there, so that person may not have the same access that you do to all the things that you start, you know, we start to depend on having, and that, you know, that is a very, very valid point that I think that everybody doesn't always get if you're not in an area that is underserved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't really, you just assume everyone else has the same level of service. really not the point.
Well, and one of the aspects that I do like the most about Pens Plus Pals as a concept is that you're not, these matches will be anonymous, or they will be matched, matched by us. So when we've got these platforms that we have, Facebook, and we've got these communities that we essentially curate ourselves, maybe unconsciously we're making determinations about who we're talking to. We're not necessarily pushing the envelope, bad pun, but we're not it largely is the people that we know in real life, and also just kind of transferring our communication to them virtually. But if we're able to, set aside any, biases or any just, we might not have it might be lack of access to being able to, cultivate these relationships through any other means, I think we'll establish some really interesting relationships, things that we wouldn't just in our normal day-to-day lives, be able to create.
Yes, I think that's an excellent an excellent point to raise. Could you also share with us where people can find you and find out more about your business?
Oh, absolutely. So right now, we are live on Kickstarter. That's a crowdfunding platform, and that's only live until the 15th of October. So I'm not sure how relevant that will be for very long, and I'm actually very excited to convert to our fully functioning website, which is penspluspals.com. So you can actually go there already and give your email address if you want to stay informed and join our newsletter. So you can get involved straight away using the Kickstarter and become a Pen member today. You can go to the website if you just want to stay more up to speed on where we're at. And Facebook is a reliable source for what's current in the Pens Plus Pals universe, and you can just find us at facebook.com/Pens Plus Pals.
Terrific. Yeah, this will be posted before that date, so I know that more people will be hearing this, and even after they'll be also aware of the site and everything else. And
that is great. The more the merrier.
Yeah, and want to find out more and how they can get involved. And what I find is talking with a lot of women entrepreneurs that they will a lot of times see a need or something that they're like, oh, I like that idea, or boy, I wish someone had a solution, and they end up creating it. How do you feel as far as being a woman entrepreneur right now? How excited are you about that?
Wow, I'm very excited to be a woman always. I think we have all the fun. We do.
True.
And I've had a very interesting position from which my views on, working in gender diversity in a workplace has been shaped, and I've observed that through the sports industry for the most part, but now I'm getting those views in the startup culture as well. So I think it's a very exciting time to be a female voice in this industry. I think especially in sport, I was the recipient of some of the best and worst that women can expect. And I think in a lot of industries, you're consistently reminded that you're a female. But I think we need to own that. We need to be confident, which is different than entitled, but we have to lean in and we have to be prepared for when those opportunities appoint themselves. And still too few women are in leadership, and the girls that are emerging now and trying to work up the ranks, they don't see those those executives that they can emulate in many cases. And even the women that have broken through aren't getting the equality, and that just hurts the bottom line. So I'm happy to be that a female voice and throw my hat in the ring. More than half of my clientele is going to be speaking the same language as me, and I know that a lot of women hold the purse strings. So I'm happy to address that audience, but really Pens Plus Pals is inclusive, so we like men too. Everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome.
Yes, I said that about this show too. So after a while, like, okay,
you understand me, yeah.
We can have a few guys, but it's very interesting because a lot of women are just very excited about just stepping out and trying things and really trying to do something a little different. And maybe they thought they would, they were really wanting to do something themselves and and maybe kind of escape a lot of the things that happen in the workplace where there's a feeling a lot of times of limitation and having to play the game and, all the things that can be very, very frustrating. I think because when I started in IT, there was a lot of men. I was at AT&T, and it was like a lot of guys who'd been there forever. And you got a sense that, in some cases they were kind of feeling that, we know what we're doing, blah, 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 and we're not really ready to make these changes. So it could be very challenging to show that, yes, I can do this, particularly in technology, because it's just the assumption that, of course, you don't really belong there. So
well, and it's hard. It compounds, I think, because being an entrepreneur is scary and daunting. Yeah. Period. Full stop. It's very, it's a very scary position to say, okay, here's this thing that I just came up with. Please, like it or consume it or, pay attention to it. I mean, even to your closest friends, it's very hard to, to put out, your truth to the world. That's not even addressing, what could be, these gender dynamics that then play into it as well, and feeling like you're already at a disadvantage, or feeling like you're being you're not getting certain opportunities. So I think the only one that's going to do it for you is you. And if women can feel back themselves, feel confident, and the more examples that we can have. And again, I'm preaching to the choir because I know that you've done such an enormous thing for this community by just putting front and center those examples. So the more that we can do that and cheerlead each other, that's great.
Yeah, I totally agree about that, and I think it's important, and it just shows how maybe a lot of times women may not feel that they have what it takes. It's so often it's how the messages they may have received, and sometimes society gives to people, and just stepping out there with your idea and having the courage to do that takes a lot, more than people realize it takes, because there are people, having been in corporate for a long time, I know what it's like when people just kind of give up. Not to say everybody in corporate is depressed, but there are many conversations one has, and you realize some people would have rather made a different choice at some point. And maybe they talked themselves out of it because the security they felt they had, they didn't, So, or they're at a point
certainly,
where,
and it's not for everyone. Yeah.
For sure.
That's spot on as well. Sure. But if you're gonna have that voice and that nag and that itch and you can't shake it, and you'll always think like, man, if I just would have given myself that license to have a try, have a go, I think that's when you really need to listen to your inner voice and just let the chips fall where they may, just say yes.
Exactly.
Full circle.
Exactly. Yeah. You really have to think that way. And I know a lot of people have their side hustles. So that's another thing too, which I definitely saw a lot of the time. So, many people just said, well, I'm going to do this thing. And maybe at the time they didn't want to, let a lot of other people know what they were doing. But there was always, people who were just willing to say, I'm just going to keep this going, even if I'm here. I've got this other thing that belongs to me. So, I think a lot of people just have the desire to express themselves in some way. If it's a business idea or something that they can try and do. And that's what keeps things going and keeps things exciting and interesting. And I like I said, all the women I've interviewed, they will have an excitement, even in the midst of it being scary and just stepping out. They really, really feel something passionate about what they're doing. So I
would be a big advocate if you think you have any inclination to just, do something creative or start a podcast or, put together a book proposal or, put together a business plan. It's only gonna probably up your game in these other arenas of your life as well. It might make you more enthused in your 9 to 5, or it might, bring some renewed interest, in your social networks, or make you feel more proud. So, you sort of, have that air to you when you're teaching your kids. And, I think it does,
Yes.
bring, it kind of makes you level up, and, you should not confine yourself.
Right. That's true. That's a perfect way to look at it, I think. And then hopefully that's the kind of, way where they were going, that people will feel more comfortable trying these things, even, no problem if you prefer to stay 9 to 5, that's not a problem. Everybody doesn't dislike what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you feel like there's something else that you could do as well, or, just kind of check it out and see if that's a way that you may want to go. So I think it's more open now for that, and I think that's a good thing. And there are more choices for people than maybe there would have been when a lot of companies were kind of frowning on people doing anything outside of the job.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that has opened up a lot more. So, we're kind of at the end of our show here. So, are there any final thoughts that you have as far as what we've discussed, or anything you want to mention?
I just think, I was trying to, do my best prep work to make sure that I was going to be a good interviewee for you, and just trying to think at, what new ideas, or, I'm not qualified to answer everything about being an entrepreneur. I'll leave that to the Elon Musks of the world and the Jeff Bezos of the world. But, I think it is important to know your unfair advantages. And I can just sense through the phone line, because we're not like in a studio, we're just talking over the phone. But I can sense your enthusiasm, and I think that no matter, kind of what we were just saying, no matter what you're doing, I just think you need that capital E enthusiasm. Like in baseball, teams play 162 games over 180 days. Like, it is the most absurd, long slog schedule.
Wow.
They need to bring their A games every day, and you need to bring your A game to every podcast. And it's just that when you're listless or maybe like losing focus, no one is going to mobilize toward your vision if you can't bring that enthusiasm. So I guess is my takeaway, and what we just said, if you've got the enthusiasm for a project, or for, even just a small seed of an idea, like a twinkle in your eye of an idea, I can just, I'm excited when I hear that in your voice. And I think if you've got that conviction, then, you're already ahead of the game. And that's what I'm trying to bring to this idea. Yeah.
Well, that's great, because I love the idea. And as I said, I really like the writing part. It's just really exciting to me, and it's different since we're becoming also tired of email and things.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the writing itself and connecting is really what it's about. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show, Kate, and just such a fantastic idea. And I just really wish you a lot of success with it, because it just sounds like it's really a perfect thing for people to connect and build a community.
Thank you so much, Deb. Thank you for your time and insights, and we'll keep you posted.
Great. That's wonderful. I'll be looking out for that. So, everyone, I know you enjoyed this show. Please make sure you share it on social media, and then also let folks know to visit the show on iTunes, Women Entrepreneurs Radio, and also WomenEntrepreneurSecrets.com has links for everywhere that you can get it, whether you have Android or iTunes or Podomatic. You could definitely listen in wherever you are, whatever device you have. So once again, it's been Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Really glad you could join me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneurSecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dvcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.